Right?
I guess my question only was, are we pretending like cameras are not here?
No.
That's what I meant with the looking.
No. I will sometimes side-eye. I will side-eye my camera all the time.
I love that.
If we say something funny, I'm like, Welcome to Inside C&A Digital, the podcast. Boy, are you in for a treat today. The focus of today's episode is really health and wellness. And this comes at a beautiful time. I think this world, this country, and certainly our county needs a little bit of advice in terms of how do we navigate today's environment. So I am joined by three beautiful guests who I have the pleasure of knowing personally. So good on me. And you are going to feel like you know them after this episode, and you're going to thank me later. So help me welcome my first guest, Dawid Wiacek, who is the founder and executive coach at Fixer LLC. Welcome, Dawid.
Thank you so much for having me. Such a privilege.
Oh, yeah, we're going to have fun today. Yes. You know this already. Emily Rentas, who is also a friend. She's a psychotherapist and organizational consultant at Solstice Mental Health Counseling Services. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you.
So
yes.
Happy to be here.
Absolutely. And last but never least, Dr. Sunni Lampasso. And she is the founder, chief executive, and consulting psychologist at Shaping Success Consulting. And she has a crazy interesting story and a new book. We can't wait to get into all of it. So before we get started, yes, thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to get started a little bit. We're going to kind of gently bring you into the questions. I want you to tell our audience just a little bit about how you got into the space, like what you do in your practice, but also what does health and wellness mean to all of you, and how do you help your clients? I'm going to actually start with you, Emily, and then we'll kind of move from there.
Sure. Thank you. Oh, loaded question about me. All right. So I am a licensed mental health counselor. I am born and raised in the Bronx. I have worked in the tri-state area tri-state in all of New York and most of the United States for the last 16 years in the areas of mental health, healthcare, supportive housing, substance use disorders, and helping corporations, nonprofits, and educational institutions to manage change and transition. So a lot of the work that I do is the intersection between human behavior, change management, emotional intelligence, and really just helping people just manage those stages of change and transition. So I have the training of a therapist to kind of understand the message behind that, the drive of a coach, but I also see things in a very systemic way as an organizational consultant. So I can see systems, understand that insight, but really approach things on a soul level. So a lot of the work is to help people just be comfortable with change, understand some of the natural feelings and issues that come up. I think post-COVID, we all understand that uncertainty is always going to be a part of our life. So a lot of the work that I do is not just like, okay, let's prepare for the change and deal with it. It's like, okay, how do we normally just always deal with change?
Sure.
Right? So are we going to approach change in this way that hasn't been helping us? Or are we going to try to do something new that's going to help us kind of break through some of that? So a lot of the work that I do is really just helping people embrace that, find their unique strengths and their unique abilities that help them really just stand out and help them manage these problems. And sometimes just not always focusing on what's working for the person next to them, right? So really just finding those unique solutions. And I love the work that I do with my clients because it demonstrates to us the power of kind of change and how we're all constantly engaging in metamorphosis.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. So I kind of told the audience in advance, and Sunni, I'm going to have you answer the same question. I don't work with any of these guys professionally, but I see you guys all the time and connect with you. And and I have a favorite quality for all of you, but one of my favorite qualities for you is kind of how you're able to put people at ease. And like you have just this beautiful ability to make people feel comfortable. And I think we're such a high performance culture here at C&A that and I believe in coaching and I've had coaches and I go to all these seminars. I'm going to want to ask you a little bit later about how do you feel like comfort either in the workplace or even at home affects people's ability to kind of maybe hit their highest performance. So just if I don't mention it, definitely come in and mention that. So Sunni, tell me and tell our audience a little bit about you and all the exciting stuff you have going on.
Sure. And again, that's a big question. And we share a lot of similarities in our work. I think that, what got me into this work initially, I was really born, I think, to be a helper from the time I was a few days old and my grandfather gave me the name Sunny.
Yeah.
And, I think you know the whole story to that. And then, just moving on to helping in different ways, whether that was when I was a teenager, saving my grandmother from drowning, then becoming a lifeguard, then finding psychology in high school, and just knowing that this is how I wanted to help people. But really, I just believe I'm here to help. And psychology has been the way that I've helped. And that has sort of shifted and morphed over my career. I got my doctorate in clinical psychology and became a board certified behavior analyst, and worked across a variety of settings in leadership roles in nonprofit and behavioral health. And then went on to develop a private practice. And for me, working one-on-one, which I always enjoyed doing and helping people on a one-on-one basis, in private practice, it just felt very reactive. Over the years, so much of what I saw were people coming in because of things that started off at work, whether they were unhappy at work, burned out at work, changing careers, ending a career, moving into retirement, and, succession planning, those types of issues. And I really felt like, as you know, therapy is more of a reactive thing.
Sure.
And I really wanted to be on the proactive side. So that's what really led me to start my own consulting firm and move into the space where I can help leaders be better and develop skills that they're often not trained for, that they so desperately need, as well as, helping workplaces be better. Right. So that's really what started the shift initially, and got me into, executive coaching, which I then did additional training in. But then over time, and I'm sure we'll probably come back to this, like through my experience, realized that, because I'm a clinician, it gives me tons of skills that make me a great executive coach that people can relate to and where I can help them change behaviors and reach goals. However, there's more to it than that. So I also do consulting and organizational behavioral work where sometimes the issues are greater. And then also I act as a trusted leadership advisor where I, stay with that leader and I'm sort of not necessarily on call, but I'm there for them as they're navigating tough decisions and helping them get through different stages of growth and change.
Yeah. Okay. So now you're starting to see why I'm so excited that you're here and joining us. Dawid, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you got started?
Oh, yes. Well, I have to take off my coaching hat because as a coach, my job is to ask questions. So I have like 13 questions for each of you already. But let me actually say a little bit about me, right?
Yes, so, please.
I came here at the age of 7 from Poland, so I'm a proud immigrant. And I think that experience of being othered really shaped my career and my academics. So I studied psychology in college, but I actually started learning and reading psychological texts and literature around 14, 15. So I was, and still to this day, am a psych nerd.
Yeah.
Through and through.
I'm
proud.
too.
Now, when I graduated college, I had this path of potentially going into the social work route, maybe becoming a psychotherapist, maybe going the medical route and becoming a psychiatrist. But something in me didn't quite resonate with that path. So I graduated with my bachelor's in psychology and in 2007 started looking for work. Now, this was an interesting period because it was right at the heel of the Great Recession. What we're going through right now feels a little bit like that, right? Because there were no jobs, right? There was a lot of tumult and sort of the economic landscape across the world was such that jobs were few and far between. And people were really struggling to promote themselves, brand themselves, find jobs online, because it was really starting to go from offline to online. And I worked at a company where I was in charge of helping people find those jobs. The trick was I was 21, 22, fresh out of college.
Right.
What did I know as a young, scrub? And how was I going to coach these mid and senior level executives on how to find jobs in a market where there were no jobs? Right. So that was my first job. Like, it threw me into the fire. What an experience that was. I really kind of had to grow a thick skin and learn quickly. From that, I started working in HR. So a lot of talent development, training, operations, a little bit of recruiting. And while I was good at it, it didn't speak to my soul. So a lot of that work felt very administrative. Mm-hmm. So 10 years ago, last month, 10 years ago, I quit started my own business, Career Fixer LLC.
Congratulations.
And I'm here to talk a little bit more about that. So really, really pleased that I can now take that HR training and experience and apply it to my role as a coach.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. In the pre-show, which you guys don't get to see, we were talking about all of the roles and all of the titles this powerhouse team here has. And, actually, my first question to you, Emily, is, kind of based around that. So how do your roles as a psychotherapist, a coach, and a consultant kind of overlap or complement each other as it relates to like mental health counseling, right? Because those are different roles, but obviously they're kind of related. So tell us a little bit about like how the different things that you do kind of complement each other or kind of jive together.
Yeah. So a lot of the work between being a therapist and a coach and an organizational consultant, there's definitely a lot of overlap in that, right? So in that is just really understanding human behavior, managing change, and also understanding the emotional intelligence in a lot of this. As a therapist, it gives me the opportunity to help clients understand shifts and understand the messages behind things that are tied to past experiences, right? So we're looking a lot in the past, we're understanding kind of the significant symptoms and issues that are related to mental illness. And that's, it's a lot more, mental health, medically based, but there's still kind of the humanistic part, empathy, listening, sitting with somebody's story and their pain and not rushing to find a solution and helping them kind of understand and unravel a lot of that. Yeah. And those skills then translate into a coach, right? And into an organizational consultant where as a coach, I'm helping people create goals and create new future-oriented behaviors that are matched towards the new changes that they want to make in the future. When it comes to being an organizational consultant, I'm trying to facilitate that change more in a group, right? To create that organizational efficiency. So in all those parts, I'm helping people listen, understand the message to things. What is not being said? What is being said? What are we hesitating on? What have we done before? What are we trying to avoid? So a lot of that is just kind of really combing through it and having that patience to really just listen to those messages behind. So having the courage to listen is an important skill, no matter whether you're a therapist or a coach or an organizational consultant.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting. And I think it leads me into a question I have for you, Sunni. And I forgot to mention what my favorite part about you is. So I'll tell everybody now. One of the things that people, I'm sure, say, maybe to your face and definitely behind your back, is when you walk in a room, the whole room lights up. And I think your name is so very appropriate. So, one of the things I love is like, we'll catch eyes at a networking event and we'll like wave to each other and come and give a hug. But I'm sure that disposition, that natural character you have must help you in practice. But I'm going to give you a little bit of plug here because you have a new book out and it's called Level Up Your Influence. So go out and buy the book, please. And in there, you introduce a framework to help leaders to overcome mental roadblocks and lead with more clarity and resilience. So tell us some of in just a few moments, tell us a little bit about what could and should compel our audience to go buy this book and why you wrote it, why you think it's helpful, especially today.
Sure. I really do think it is such a timely book because what I'm doing with this book, with this framework, is helping leaders to navigate uncertainty and develop, which is one of the most important leadership skills, psychological flexibility. There were a few reasons that I wrote this book. One of them being, over time, you know me, I'm a networker, I'm a connector. And as I was connecting with people and sharing my leadership story with them, I found that people were inspired by it, as well as I was being inspired by some of the leaders that I was meeting with. So I thought to myself, this is so great. I love what's happening here. Like, I really benefited from these meetings, but I really wanted to share that with a wider audience, as well as also understanding that not everyone is in a position or place that they are able to work with me for whatever reason. So why not still give them a variety of tools that they can use right now, every day, professionally, and also people have been applying it personally, which is really exciting. So that was those were the reasons for writing this book in the first place. So really to help more people, whether that be with motivating them, inspiring them, and then again, giving them tools to build their self-awareness, that key component of emotional intelligence, as you talked about, really getting an idea of what is going on with them. And what this framework helps with is a few things. One, understanding thoughts and feelings that may get in the way of your goals, and what you do as a leader when those things come up, getting an awareness of them, understanding them, and then as well as taking a look at your values and purpose and aligning goals with them. Because I think a lot of times developing the self-awareness of both and looking at this framework to head into a difficult situation can really help to ground you. Sure. There are also elements of mindfulness in this framework of really helping you to understand, right, those roadblocks. What are they for you? And when they show up, what are you doing that's not in line with your goals? So it's really all about getting you grounded and helping you stay aligned with your goals and purpose and values, which are like all connected.
Sure. And one of my favorite parts about it is that some of this work can sometimes to people feel kind of nebulous and kind of cloudy or kind of interpretive. And when you give a framework, I think you really help people to take a more prescriptive kind of look at the work that they have to do.
Exactly. And it is just one tool. I provide lots of other small strategies, but I think it's one tool I know for me that's really helped me on my journey. And I come back to it time and time again, whether I'm making a difficult situation, a difficult decision, or going into a stressful situation. And it's been so helpful for me. And I really wanted to share this, research back tool with people, because a lot of people don't know about it.
Yeah, don't have access maybe to immediately, although
exactly
maybe they will after that.
Yes.
Now, let me talk to you a little bit about burnout, because there's a lot of talk about this today, especially in this kind of weird environment that we've been in economically, where people feel very nervous, or they may be overextending themselves in areas of their life out of fear. So we know it's a major concern for people in a lot of different industries. In your experience in working with leaders, what are some of the early signs of burnout, and what are some of the preventative measures that you recommend to help people address these signs?
Well, let me just say, I know we kind of made a secret pact for no math today, but I do have a single statistic. One of the leading HR associations last year published a study that suggested or showed that about 44% of those surveyed were experiencing burnout. 44%. Okay. That's staggering, right? Yeah. And I know that to be true for my own client base. The thing about burnout is, you asked, how does it manifest itself? In different ways. For some people, it's pure disengagement. They sort of check out mentally. There's a certain, just a disengagement from the work. For other people, actually, it's almost like they're going to work harder. They're going to prove that they can do it. They spin on that hamster wheel ever so quickly, even more and more and more, until they can spin no more. So I think it's really important to realize that it is not a one-size-fits-all, that everybody experiences it differently. For some people, it's more of an emotional experience. Sure. Some people have physical ailments or unwellness. I've had clients who've had everything from ulcers to migraines and headaches, that when they changed something about how they addressed this experience or this situation, or removed themselves entirely from a toxic environment, those physical symptoms went away. Yeah. So there's that. But I think there's another thing to be said of, while the world is heavy, while your industry may be really cutthroat and really toxic, as some industries or some companies are, there's this opportunity to say, how am I complicit in this? Is my type A New Yorker contributing to this hot mess that I found myself in? Is it aggravating and making it worse? Or am I doing the things that I can be doing that are within my power to make this a little bit more livable? So that could be everything from, and there are short-term and long-term strategies. Short-term could be, take that break and walk around the block or listen to that music. Or for me, it's my morning run. I do a 5K almost every morning. I smell the literal roses on my path because I do it outside. This morning I saw a rabbit, just like good luck, right? Yeah. So there are these things, but then if you're just hoping that these micro coping mechanisms are gonna solve a micromanagement toxic boss, they're not gonna. They may make the day a little bit more tolerable, but it's important to take stock and do an audit of, is this role right for you long term?
Sure.
How long can you really stomach this? And are you willing to endure the long-term consequences? So yes, there are short-term strategies, but I invite my clients and my coachees to really look at the bigger picture. What do you want to do with the next 6 months? Not even the next 5 years, but with the next 6 months of your life. So that's where we play.
I love that. And I think, one of the things that we'll kind of close the show with is I'm going to ask you each to give one nugget of advice. If you could give our viewers, our listeners on Apple Music and Spotify, like one piece of advice, that's where we're going to close. I think, the desired outcome here, we've just launched C&A Health. So our commitment to health at C&A is ever present, has been around for 14 years. I personally invest in kind of personal development. I think sometimes that feels foreign to people. So one of my desired outcomes today in having each of you here was just to kind of open up the realm of possibility to not only individuals, but also some of the companies that follow us or are friends with me, just to what you guys offer. And I think you guys did a great job kind of opening up the world to that. But I'm going to start with you, Emily. What one piece of advice would you give people that are going through kind of watching the news, doing the thing, going to work? And I know there's a lot of things and you don't know the audience and we want to analyze, but if you have one just kind of holistic piece of advice, what would it be?
How can you manage the day-to-day by keeping informed while still managing your sanity, right? So we want to know what's going on, but we have to be mindful in how we're consuming that information, right?
Sure.
When are we picking and choosing to look at the news? How are we taking in the news? Are we watching videos and reels and kind of getting exposed to things that are very stressful? Okay, maybe we need to just switch it to some print, produce some images, just know what's going on, right? And limiting that, right? Maybe just keeping it to a 10, 15-minute increments, still having time for yourself and doing things that bring you joy, purpose, and meaning. It's important to just be as present as possible throughout your day and engaging in mindfulness in some way that allows you to get connected with your mind and body so that you're not feeling that disconnect and overwhelm as you're getting overstimulated with the news.
Do you recommend meditation? Is this something that
guided meditation, especially if you're starting off with it? Mindfulness and meditation is often centered around being present and not being judgmental of the thoughts that we have, right? So part of it is just being observant of where we are. Where are we sitting right now? How are we feeling with the room temperature? How does my legs feel in this chair?
It's warm in here. That's why I was saying it's warm in here. Okay, I'm sorry.
It's just bringing more awareness. So when you're doing that throughout the day, while you're also handling upsetting things, it keeps that tether to your mind and your body to be as present, so you're not having that disconnect. So being present as possible, being mindful of technology, how you're using it, notifications, and then having a time at the end of the day when you're going to kind of wind down, right? Especially when it's time to go to sleep. Do you engage in sleep hygiene that allows you to kind of start telling your body, hey, we're going to go to bed soon, right? So creating those habits is what kind of helps ground us and anchors us while we're dealing with all this upsetting news.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, I'm a person of very strong faith. And so I have like a morning prayer routine, do some meditation, but I think, I find the days that is made a priority for me, I just have an overall better day. And I know, some people, believe in something bigger, have faith, some people don't, but meditation's been making a play. I love that. And so I think that, I try to kind of bring to the world what has worked for me personally, because obviously that's kind of what is going to be, at least has been helpful for me. So I can speak from experience.
Right? If you've never meditated
absolutely.
before, just
don't go for 45 minutes. Don't do that. Yeah. It's like, please don't. What do you say, Sunni?
Well, I have to agree with really everything you said, because that's what I do for myself and also recommend for my clients. It's really about limiting the amount of news consumption, right? There's so much going on out there, limiting the way you take it in, right? Because watching things on a video or, on the news is so much different than, like you mentioned, reading it in print. Reading it in print gives it a different emotional piece to it that's not as intense. So I definitely believe in that. And then I think, with mindfulness and meditation, I know so many people, I think most people I know at least, including myself, struggle with the meditation piece, right? And really implementing that practice regularly.
Sure.
But for me, I really recommend like doing mindful activities, right? Learn something new. If you've never done painting before and you're interested in it, try it. While you're learning that activity, your mind isn't elsewhere. You're completely mindful. You're fully engaged in the activity. So I think that, that's something to try. And then also doing general things that you do every day mindfully, right? Let's say you don't have time for a 20-minute or 10-minute mindfulness activity. Guess what you can do? You can brush your teeth mindfully. All right. You brush your teeth every day. And usually when you're brushing your teeth, most likely your thoughts are, what am I doing next? Where am I going? What's going on? But really focusing in on all the senses while you're brushing your teeth so you're in the present moment.
Or like have a meal mindfully. Like how many people are like scrolling and eating? It's like, can you just put it down? Mindful eating. I know we talked about that over lunch.
Yes. You can do that with like one Hershey's Kiss or one raisin and really fully experience what does it taste like? What does it feel like in your mouth? What does it smell like? Those activities can help keep you grounded in the present moment, when it's especially hard right now.
Sure. Simple and useful advice. What do you have for us?
So many things, but I'm going to keep it short because I'm a minimalist, or at least aspire to be. My addition to those wonderful ideas would be make it social, build community. We are social creatures. We've evolved this way. Mm-hmm. And so if you can kind of go beyond your own problems and your own viewpoint by volunteering, by seeking community, whether it's a spiritual group, a running club, a painting club, whatever it is, make sure that it is that you have that social interaction throughout the week, and not just as a one-off, but as a regular thing. Studies have shown that volunteering takes the mind off of your problems so you can help others. When you feel that sense of accomplishment, it can be transformational. And last thing I'll say, because I work with a lot of high achievers as a mental fitness coach, is this idea of grace. Show yourself grace. These high performers are terrible at showing themselves grace and being okay when things don't go their way.
Sure.
So that aspect of practicing that, I think that touches on the mindfulness pieces. How much grace are you showing yourself? How are you building that grace for your own darn self?
That is a great question. And I will conclude with my favorite part about you, which is that every time I see you at a networking event, you absolutely remember the last thing we talked about. You try to connect me with someone, and you always have the nicest things to say about every single person that crosses. So you're always kind of looking at this, at least from what I've known about you, glass half full, which I think is something that I think sets you apart in the industry. I want to thank you for joining us today. I want to thank each of you. My hope with this episode is that you take just a little bit of time to think about what you need. It's something that's super important to me. I think it's especially trying times, but there is support out here. And I will leave you a couple of pieces of advice. If you like reels and you're consuming a lot of crap content, I mix in 10 minutes of things that make me laugh hysterically. I love Kevin Hart and The Rock, and anything they do together has me crying. So 10 minutes of laughter a day, kind of definitely, especially if it's been a rough day, or a comedy special, stand-up comedy, live comedy, something that kind of elevates your mood. And really, I've been trying to be more present at meals, which has been really, really impactful since our lunch together. I hope this was helpful to you. I hope that you take your health as serious as these guys take health and wellness. I want to thank you for joining us. Until next time on Inside C&A Digital, the podcast, thanks for joining us.